Stop! I screamed. Lightning fast, I swept the sharp rock right out of Angel's grasp, and it went spinning off into the dust. Have you completely lost your mind, Angel? It's okay, Max, Angel assured me, and Jean nodded. Oui, oui. Chapter 5. Stop! I screamed. Lightning fast, I swept the sharp rock right out of Angel's grasp, and it went spinning off into the dust. Have you completely lost your mind, Angel? It's okay. It's okay, Max, Angel assured me, and Jean nodded. Oui, oui. I dropped to my knees and examined Jean's hand while she sucked on a finger on her other. She had a thin puncture at least an inch long. Wait here. I'm going to run and find a first aid kit, I said breathlessly. Jean grabbed my arm and said with her non-bloody hand, Non, she said. Voici. She pointed to her oozing wound. I know. I'm so sorry, Jean, I babbled. Please forgive Angel. She's a little unbalanced. I'll fix you right up right now. You'll be fine, I promise. Yes, she will, Angel said calmly. How badly was I going to kick her butt later? Jean placed the finger she'd been sucking on at the end of the incision and started pressing it. Jeepers, don't touch that, I said. We need to keep the wound clean. Keep it from getting infected. I looked around. Someone here who speaks French? Tell her not to. I broke off as I witnessed something unlike I'd ever seen before. And I'd seen a lot of weird stuff, including brains on a stick. Check out book 3 if you're curious. Most of the weird stuff I'd seen had been nightmarish, but this was something beautiful, breathtaking, miraculous. As Jean ran her finger slowly along the bloody slash, pressing as she went, it closed right up before my eyes. She had healed herself. Chapter 6. All right, any second now. The words were clipped, his accent thick. Mr. Chu leaned over his assistant's shoulder, impatiently looking at a blank computer screen. And then, right on time, the screen flickered and split to show two charts side by side. Points started blinking faintly, and small words began running along different lines. Heart rate, temperature, blood oxygen saturation level, and so on. His assistant peered at the charts for a moment, then typed maximum on one side and angel on the other. Mr. Chu became lost in reviewing the biological data streaming from the microscopic monitors. Mr. Chu, you have a visitor, sir. Another assistant stood in the trailer doorway, one hand on his weapon as required. Mr. Chu went down the short, narrow hall to the small receiving room. A young girl in a yellow dress stood there, twisting one of her thin braids between nervous fingers. Hello, Jean, said Mr. Chu, smiling. Jean managed a tiny smile back. You were successful in your mission, said Mr. Chu, motioning to an assistant. Les filles also sont très belles, Jean said sweetly. Here is your reward, said Mr. Chu, taking a lollipop from his assistant and giving it to Jean. Her eyes widened, and she eagerly ripped the wrapper off and stuck the candy in her mouth. Her eyes closed in rapture. Mr. Chu nodded again, and his assistant quickly swabbed Jean's upper arm with an alcohol wipe. Oh, what happened? The whole length of her arm was lined up with dots, marking the sites of hundreds of needle insertions. And here was a new one, as the assistant injected the contents of a hypodermic needle into Jean's almost non-existent muscle. It was the first of a dozen injections to come in the next 24 hours. Jean had learned to put up with all of the drugs. The pills, the drips, the shots. Without them, the side effects of being a self-healer were much, much worse. All the treatments were a small price to pay for such rewards, after all. Jean's closed eyelids flickered a tiny bit as the needle went in, but she swirled the lollipop in her mouth and didn't say a word. Chapter 7. We worked all day until dusk. The flock is usually chocker full of stamina, but it kind of depends on getting 3,000 to 4,000 calories a day. By 6 o'clock, we were running on empty. Max, said Patrick, walking up to me with a lumpy sack in tow. Here's some bedding. It's not much, I'm afraid. There's a tent set aside for you guys. Do you want to get it organised before dinner? You have about 10 minutes. Sure. By the way, Patrick, who was the camel platoon? I asked. Don't know for sure, he said, but some of the locals have a thing against Americans. It's complicated politics we can talk about later. Right now, if you want to get set up. Sure, thanks, I said, taking the sack. I looked at my tired flock. You guys wait here. I think Charles coming. And drink some water. I'll help you with that, said Fang, nodding at the tent. Sure, I said casually, but my heart was already speeding up. We ducked through the worn nylon flap of our tent and I dropped the sack. And the next moment we had our arms around each other, ignoring the dust on each other's lips and our hot, sticky skin. The flying was amazing, but I've missed you, Fang murmured, his hands getting stuck in the snarls in my hair. Yeah, this is probably our only chance to be alone for a while. I couldn't stand seeing you get shot at today, Fang said, kissing my neck. I drew back in surprise. You've seen me get shot at like 1,000,000 times. He shrugged, scratching my back between my wings, making me shiver. It's worse now. Yeah, I know what you mean, I said, and held his face so I could kiss him again. It felt like we were in a time-free bubble, and the only two people around. And in the 98-degree weather, I felt like I was burning up from my head to my toes. Max! Fang! Dinner! I jumped and pulled back. But no one came into the tent, so Fang's lingering hand stroked up and down my arms as we tried to get normal expressions back on our faces. Part of me wanted to stay in there forever and forget the rest of the world, but I immediately felt guilty, thinking of the flock waiting for us outside. I was still responsible for them. We were still a family, and always would be. Chapter 8. Pass the grub, said Iggy a few minutes later, holding out his hand. The brown grub or the yellow grub? I asked. My face still felt flushed from my time with Fang. I hoped the others couldn't tell. Either. Iggy ran a hand through his reddish-blonde hair, making it stand up stiffly with dirt and sweat. Later, I was going to march everyone down to the water pump in this tent village, pump a couple of gallons of water, and try to decrust the flock as much as possible. We've got certain standards. They're way low, but we have them. You guys did great today, said Patrick. You must be exhausted. Mm-hmm, I mumbled, picking up a white ball of millet paste. Dipped in the peanut goat stew sauce, it was about a 3 on the mixed culinary scale. Above roasted desert rat or lizard on a stick, but well below, say, a steak. Roger, the nurse, handed Iggy a small dented bowl. Dried fish mixed with stuff. Try it. We ate everything we could get our hands on. Living on the streets had beaten any pickiness out of us. Plus, we burned calories like a race car burns fuel, and we just couldn't afford not to eat, whatever it was. The fire leaped in front of us, looking pretty and feeling cozy and warm, but smelling to high heaven, since its fuel was camel poop. Yes, I mean, a regular camel is no bed of roses, but its poop on fire? The only one not wrinkling his nose was Gazzy. But as soon as the blazing sun had set, the desert temperature had dropped about 30 degrees and the fire was welcome. I ate, trying not to miss chocolate, and felt the warmth of Fang's leg pressed against mine here in the shadows. I was on my third pass of reliving our stolen minutes in the tent and already wondering when we could be alone again. These days I spent a ridiculous amount of time dreaming about someday just being able to spend all day with Fang, alone. Now my face really was burning. In my dream, the flock was safe somewhere. Total and Akila weren't there, and no one was chasing us. I would have no worries, no need to be on alert. I could just relax. Which, okay, I suck at, but I was hoping that with practice. You guys met Jean today, didn't you? Patrick asked. The little girl in the yellow dress. She is really special, Angel said solemnly. Yes. Patrick shook his head. She used to have a father and 4 brothers. They've all died in the past 2 years from either HIV or hunger or the outbreaks of civil war that keep happening. Now it's just Jean and her mum has been diagnosed with HIV. Oh no, Nudge said, tears welling in her eyes. So she'll be an orphan? Patrick nodded sadly. Most likely. In many other countries, people can sometimes live long lives with HIV medications. But it's different here. And there are so many other children like her. I choked down another millet ball. Note to self, do not bother getting a recipe. And looked at my beloved flock, safe in a circle around the fire. Iggy was staring straight into the flames, able to because he was blind. Gazzy was examining each and every last bowl for any morsel that might have been missed. Nudge had her chin in her hands, looking at the ground, and I knew she was bumming about all the misery here. My life would have been incomplete without each and every one of them. I glanced into Fang's eyes to find him watching me with dark intensity, and my cheeks flushed again. Could we sneak off? Like, into the dark shadows of the desert? Just for a minute. Nothing can last forever, Max. It was Angel, eerily interrupting my thoughts. She was scratching the dirt with a small animal bone. And actually, I hate to tell you this, but Fang will be the first to die. And it will be soon. Chapter 9. 5 birdhead kids swiveled toward Angel. Nudge's mouth had dropped open and Gazzy's eyes were big. Iggy's boyish face creased into wrinkles. My dark, mysterious Fang had hardly registered his surprise, as if Angel had just said it was about to rain. As for me, I felt like Angel had kicked me in the gut. What exactly do you mean by that? I finally choked out. I'm just saying, Max, said Angel, still playing with her bone. You always want everything to stay the same, but it can't. We're all getting older. You have a mum. You and Fang are all googly-eyed at each other. Nothing stays the same. We can't last forever. And I happen to know that Fang is going to be the first to die. You're going to have to learn to live without him. I'm sorry. My eyes narrowed and I stood up. How do you know that? I asked tightly. What makes you say that? The rest of the flock was watching wide-eyed. Only Fang didn't look upset. It's okay, Max, he said, patting my leg. Don't worry about it. Angel looked at him sadly and shook her head, and something in me broke loose. I grabbed her shirt and pulled her to her feet. Her mouth opened in surprise. What do you mean? I snarled. Fang jumped up and tried to pry my hands loose. Nudge tried to get between us. I ignored them, focusing on Angel's face. You tell me what you meant, I said, or I'm gonna... I had to think of something almost as bad as killing her, but not quite. I'll cut all that fluffy blonde hair of yours off while you sleep. Max! hissed Fang, pulling at me. Stop it! But I was still shaking Angel. Max, stop! Pleaded Nudge, sounding close to tears. Is everything okay? Patrick's concerned voice started to filter into my brain as I realized what I was doing. I'd never almost hurt a member of the flock before. Abruptly, I let go of Angel's shirt. Her face was white. Max, gosh, said Nudge, putting her hand on Angel's shoulder. I was breathing hard, and Fang pushed me back gently, moving me away from Angel. How could she say something like that and not explain it? Max, come on, said Fang. I opened my mouth, but then noticed that 2 people were approaching our fire. This would have to wait. Chapter 10. Hello, said Patrick as the people got nearer. As they got close, we could see that there was a tall man and a tall kid. They were only silhouettes until they were almost on top of the fire. Hello, good evening. The man had a foreign accent and was ridiculously dapper in a crisp, clean seersucker suit. Can I help you? Asked Patrick. Ah, yes, he said. I am Dr. Hans Gunther Hagen. One of my companies is conducting research here. I donated the supply of vaccines your group is using. Patrick stood and quickly wiped his hands on his shorts before holding one out to Dr. Gunther Hagen. Oh, thank you so much, he said, beaming. I can't tell you what a difference it makes. We really appreciate your generosity. The doctor smiled at him. It was my pleasure. It's a blessing to be able to share my prosperity with others. Roger leaned over to whisper in my ear. Huge billionaire. Owns 100 companies, mostly in pharmaceuticals. Another huge billionaire, eh? I wondered if he knew Nino Pierpont, the richest guy in the world, who sometimes funded our little adventures. Like, did billionaires hang out with each other? Talk about the countries that they want to buy, that kind of thing? I heard that you have the bird children here, he said. My eyebrows went up. Patrick looked nonplussed and deliberately didn't glance at us. Oh? He managed. Yes, the doctor said, sounding friendly and curious. I'm most interested to meet them. They've gotten such tremendous publicity. I was hoping to ask the leader of the bird children to come and have breakfast with me tomorrow morning in my tent. Seconds ticked by. Patrick and Roger said nothing. I rose and stepped forward, saying, that would be me. At the exact same time, Angel stood, saying, sure. My jaw clenched. On top of everything else, she was now starting one of her campaigns to lead the flock. Your timing sucks, I thought at her, and she flicked her eyes at me. Fine, said Dr. Gunther Hagen, rubbing his hands together excitedly. Splendid! Both of you. First, I'd like to introduce my protege. This is Dylan. He gestured, and the tall kid stepped into the fire's circle of light. I blinked, wondering what teen heartthrob magazine Dr. Hagen's ass had swiped Dylan from. He was as tall as Fang and Iggy, meaning over 6 feet. His thick, dark blonde hair was shoved carelessly back from a tanned forehead. Expressive turquoise eyes looked at us with guarded curiosity. He was wearing jeans, torn and scuffed, dusty boots. A beat-up suede jacket mostly covered his clean white t-shirt. He was ready for a photo shoot, like for the top 25 hottest guys under the age of 20. Of course, Fang would also qualify. Hey, I said raspily and nodded, but I couldn't think of anything else to say. And for some reason that actually bothered me. I was particularly hoping you could meet Dylan, said the doctor. He's been putting up with my company, and I'm sure he would benefit from meeting people like himself. I rolled my eyes mentally, thinking that of course we were in no way like Dylan. Shows him, Dylan, said the doctor. Dylan looked self-conscious, but slowly took off his jacket to reveal broad shoulders and muscled arms. He was heavier than Fang. Bulkier? Maybe he was older. Had more regular access to food? I was thinking, what? When Dylan sort of shrugged his shoulders and extended his wings. All 15 feet of them. What are you two up to?